Last year, the Minnesota Wild offense ranked near the bottom in the Western Conference. That's why Vladimir Tarasenko bouncing back is crucial to them improving.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day. We thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we are ranking the offenses in the Central Division. Where do the Minnesota Wild fall amongst these Central Division teams as far as goals scored is concerned? And is Vladimir Tarasenko really the key to unlocking this Minnesota Wild offense? We'll discuss all that here today. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, host of Seth on Sports, and credentialed media member once again for the 2025-2026 season. And we are going to see a lot of the daily face-off today as we look at these line combinations, because I kind of want to get visual for those that are watching the show on YouTube. If you are listening via the many audio platforms that we appreciate you following us on, don't worry, because I will certainly discuss everything that we are talking about here today. So if we just take a look at where this offense is at, we'll go to the daily face-off here, and you look at the line combinations that the daily face-off is going with for the Minnesota Wild. You've of course got Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Matt Zuccarello as your top line. Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, and Vladimir Tarasenko as line two. If we look at those six, as far as their production is concerned, A being top of the line, B being very solid, and C being average, I would say Kirill Kaprizov is definitely an A. Joel Eriksson Ek is somewhere between a B and a C. When healthy, obviously, he has shown the ability to score 30 goals in a season, which certainly is of value to the Minnesota Wild. But he tends to get kind of beat down as the season unfolds. So the ability to be healthy is in question. Matt Boldy, a perennial 30-goal scorer, had 27 goals this past season, but he has had 30 and has been right around 28, 29 goals per year. I'd put him in the B or the A column as far as production goes. Marco Rossi is definitely a B for me right now, with the potential to up it and to get a little higher on that scale. Vladimir Tarasenko and Matt Zuccarello are probably the biggest question marks of this group of six. If you look at Vladimir Tarasenko's production throughout his NHL career, his average production for an 82-game season is 35 goals or 30 goals, 35 assists. It's his average production for a full 82-game season. So if he could get you that, that would probably put him in the B tier as far as production goes, and would solve a lot of question marks. And I know we've talked about this a lot this offseason, but I just kind of want to, tee it up again as we get a little closer to the start of the season. So all told, let's just assume Kirill Kaprizov is an A. Let's just put Matt Boldy in the A column, because I think we all expect he's going to take another leap. If he doesn't, then I will remove him from that category, no problem. And let's assume then that Joel Eriksson Ek and Marco Rossi are in the B category, and that Matt Zuccarello and Vladimir Tarasenko are in the C category. Matt Zuccarello could be between a B and a C. depends on his health, depends on if he is able to produce without Kirill Kaprizov. We've already touched on those quite a bit. Tarasenko, if you could pencil Vladimir Tarasenko in for 20 to 25 goals, I think many people would be very happy about that. I think that would be a major win for this Minnesota Wild team. And then that gives you 6 guys that are 20 goal, that have the potential to score 20 goals. And it gives you the ability to mix in a few different line combinations throughout the season, depending on what is working and what isn't. For instance, I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I still would like to see the Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, Matt Boldy combination at points throughout the season. Now, you can't really do that if Matt Zuccarello is not able to produce without Kirill Kaprizov on his line. It's a legitimate concern. So the ability to do that hinges on his ability to be productive, not attached to Kirill Kaprizov at the hip. And if that's the case, let's say Zuccarello has a great season, then you maybe can try Zuccarello and Eriksson Ek and Tarasenko as your second line, and you can go Kaprizov, Rossi, Boldy as your top line. That would be, I think, a pretty lethal combo. Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy also has shown the ability to, when all fully healthy, put up some really good numbers. So it gives you options to navigate through the season when injuries inevitably happen, so you are not having to try to rely exclusively on one guy, as has been the MO for the Minnesota Wild over the last few seasons. But all told, I would say 4 out of that 6 is pretty rock solid, assuming that Eriksson Ek bounces back and gets you a higher number of games, which I think we hope that he does. If, however, Vladimir Tarasenko doesn't pan out, well, then you've got a big question mark, and that has been a question mark for quite some time. That's been a question mark since Kevin Fiala was traded to the Los Angeles Kings. If Vladimir Tarasenko doesn't get the job done in that spot, then you look at a few guys that could potentially lock that spot down. Obviously, you've got Ryan Hartman, has shown the capability. It's not something I think should be relied upon, but he has shown the capability to have some good chemistry with Kirill. So if you get in a pinch, you could go there. You've got Danila Yurov, who the Wild would like to work into that spot eventually. Think of Tarasenko as a placeholder. Think of him as somebody that is kind of keeping that seat warm until Yurov's ready to go. Liam Ogren, another guy who could get a look in that spot, depending on how things play out this season. The main point being, if Vladimir Tarasenko does his job and is able to lock that spot down, then you don't have to worry about how to fill it. You can just let it ride out, and you can let that top 6 do their thing throughout the course of the season. Because if you are going to climb the rankings to put yourself in position to be, a top 4 or 3 offense in the Central, you got to have a full 6 as far as depth is concerned. And right now the Wild are close, but they don't have that full depth level yet. So I want to take a look at where the rest of the teams in the Central Division are sitting as far as their top 6 goes. So when we come back, we are going to take a look. We'll take a look at the legitimate teams, the ones that we know, they've got a great offense. And we're going to try to rank where the Minnesota Wild fit in amongst the rest of the teams in the Central Division. So when we come back, we're going to start with some of the heavy contenders. We'll take a look at some of the other rosters throughout the Central Division. That's all coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Minnesota Vikings made it interesting against the Chicago Bears Monday Night Football. They will now take on the Atlanta Falcons, and if memory serves, the Vikings are slight favorites at home. If you want to bet on the game, you certainly can with both live options during the game, or you can take the Vikings to cover. You can go on the over-under, you name it. Or if you're feeling confident after what we saw at Soldier Field and you want to throw a futures bet down, FanDuel has that as an option for you as well. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We're getting into the swing of things here for the month of September with our 30 questions leading you all the way up to the start of the season. And this week, we're going to go with the rankings, just trying to establish a baseline as to where the Minnesota Wild rank amongst the rest of the Central Division. So, again, we're going to get visual with you here as we look at a few of the teams throughout the Central Division. We'll start with the Colorado Avalanche. Now, listen to this top six for the Avs. Top line consists of Arturi Lehkonen, Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas, Gabe Landeskog, Brock Nelson, and Valeri Nichushkin. As far as the production goes, Nathan MacKinnon's giving you A tier. That's not even a question. Marty Necas, I would say A tier as well. He ended up with 84 points this year, 27 goals. Arturi Lehkonen is probably a solid B for me as far as production goes. 27 goals, not a ton of assists, but on that line, you don't really need to assist MacKinnon or Necas. They certainly make the plays. Gabe Landeskog is the big wild card for the Avs. Coming off of major injury, trying to work himself back into shape to be able to be like he was. Obviously, a huge piece of the Colorado Avalanche success. It's not a certainty that he is able to work his way back to where he has been throughout the course of his career. But if he can get himself back to previous levels of production, he profiles as a 25 to a 30 goal scorer, which then would give that second line very solid depth. Brock Nelson is B tier production for me. Valeri Nichushkin, I would probably put him in the C tier. You know, he can get you 20 goals, but again, not a ton in the way of assists. So I would say you got the two A's. You have a very good B in Brock Nelson. Landeskog is the big question mark here. And then you got Lehkonen and Nichushkin as well. So that's what the Avs bring to the table. The Dallas Stars, I think, have maybe the envy of the Central once again. Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Mikko Rantanen. That's A-level production across the board. Perennial 30-goal scorers. You're talking 70 to 80 points for all of them. And then you look at that second line. You got Matt Duchene and Wyatt Johnston, who are also 30-goal scorers. Tyler Seguin's the big wild card here. Coming off of injury, can he get back to being a 20, 25-goal scorer himself? If he does, then that deepens this Dallas roster. If not, then who amongst this bottom six is going to step up and fill that role? Is it going to be Jamie Benn? It's not going to be Sam Steele. That bottom six has taken a hit for the Dallas Stars, but their top six certainly is is still very potent and arguably one of the best, if not the best, in the division. Winnipeg Jets, one of the best top lines in the division, bar none. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabe Vilardi. You got perennial 90-point guys in Connor and Scheifele. Gabe Vilardi had 27 goals this past season. He is also very good. But the second line for me is a complete unknown. Jonathan Toews coming back and playing after 2 full years off. You can't pencil that in and just say, well, because he's about a 60, 70-point guy throughout the course of his career, you can't plan for that. He is a complete wild card. And so if we're starting to kind of line these teams up, as good as the top line is for the Jets, they are definitely behind the Avs and the Stars, because that second line is almost a complete wild card other than Cole Perfetti. Gustav Nyquist, does he have anything left in the tank? That's the big question as far as I'm concerned. Does he have anything left in the tank? We saw plenty of it in Minnesota. It doesn't look like he does. Asking him to play a top 6 role is a major gamble. And that's one that could certainly come back to bite the Jets, especially if he doesn't produce, because then that turns them into a one-line team. Now, Nino Niederreiter could probably slide into that spot, but I think part of the reason that he's been as productive as he has been is because he's playing a very sheltered role as a third-line guy. He can just go score. He doesn't have to add a ton of other things to the equation. Just go score your goals. So Winnipeg is definitely behind the Stars and the Avs. The St. Louis Blues are another team that just has elite depth. You got Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Jimmy Snuggerud finished the season on the top line for the Blues. I would probably put Jordan Kyrou here if it were me, but that's the daily face-off. Braden Shen is an underrated second-line center. Dylan Holloway, obviously a ton of talent on that second line. If Snuggerud can turn into a 20, 25 goal scorer, he is probably the wild card here. Just going through and on-air production meeting, let's just go through and look at the one wild card of each team. If he can turn into a 25 to 30 goal scorer, that turns this into a very deep Blues roster. So I'm actually gonna slide the Blues ahead of the Jets. As far as the overall offense goes, because then you get into Jake Neighbors potentially playing a third line role. That's pretty nice. Very nice, in fact, if he's able to do that. Chicago. Oh, this is a mess. Chicago's got Andre Burakovsky, Connor Bedard, Ryan Donato, Tyler Bertuzzi, Frank Nazar, and Teuvo Tervainen. So you got Connor Bedard as the anchor of this group. Andre Burakovsky's a big wild card. If his production returns to where it previously was, then that's going to tremendously help this Chicago offense. But you can't plan on that. You can't account for that. It's a major gamble. And Tyler Bertuzzi, as much as he is capable of scoring goals, that's not his forte. That's not his job. Teuvo Tervainen, same thing. These are not predominant goal scorers here. So of your top 6, you got 2 definites. You got a guy in Ryan Donato who has kind of found the second act of his career. And you got question marks in the other spots. So Chicago, I'm moving Chicago to last right now. I don't think that's crazy to put them there. The Nashville Predators. Man, this should have been such a good team. Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Fedor Svechkov, and Luke Evangelista. Forsberg is legit. He has been a thorn in the Minnesota Wild side for years. Ryan O'Reilly is very good. Jonathan Marchessault getting up there in age, but still very good himself. Steven Stamkos has got to have a better year. It feels like pretty much all of his production was was on the power play because he didn't gel with his teammates, which is not great. But, Svechkov and Evangelista are the wild cards here. Can they turn into, bona fide scorers? Because you look at the rest of this lineup. Michael Bunting had a great year, but that's not the norm. Eric Howla is very much a role player. Zachary Leroux, not a goal scorer. Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and Matthew Wood. Matthew Wood could potentially turn into a nice piece as he gets more acclimated. So I'm going to put Nashville above Chicago, but I'm definitely putting them behind Utah. Look at this top six. Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, Nick Schmaltz, Barrett Hayton, and JJ Peterka. That is 20-plus goals across the board with the possibility for 25 to 30 in each spot. And it's solid. Like, you don't really have to question any portion of that. And so I think what I'm going to do here is, now we're talking the whole product. We're talking the overall product as far as offenses go. So I think what I am going to do here, knowing what we know about these teams, this is, call me crazy. Actually, you know what? We're going to do that after the break. Again, the Mammoth, Clayton Keller's fantastic. Logan Cooley is very, very good. This might be my favorite offense of the entire division. It's just that top six is just rock solid everywhere. You got a lot of high shot volumes, guys that are not afraid to shoot it. And, I think that Mammoth offense has major upside with just some solid production mixed into that bottom six as well. But how would you rank them, Seth? How would you put them as far as rankings go? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because we're going to do exactly that. We are going to rank the offenses for the Central Division to finish out today's episode when we come back right here on Locked On Wild. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. And before we move to the rankings portion of today's episode, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks, as always, for helping us out. All right, let's rank these teams. We went through and we looked at the at the lines that are kind of anchoring these offenses. Who is playing where? Where's the production mostly coming from? Just to try to get a true sense as to, how are these teams doing this? To quote Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad, they can't keep, some of these teams can't keep getting away with this. Just continue to create quality depth, and frankly, I'm a little sick of it. So just looking at what these teams bring to the table, I want to start at the bottom. So I think I have a pretty good idea of what the worst offense is. And I think it's Chicago, bar none. Connor Bedard is very good. Frankie Nazar, I think, is going to be very good as well. But there is not a lot else there right now. Oliver Moore is going to be really, really good. when he gets seasoning. Same with Nazar and same with Bedard as he continues to kind of mold into an NHL player, but they are not there yet. And the rest of the pieces on that roster are just kind of thrown together. So I am definitely putting Chicago last. In the 7 spot, despite the firepower they have, I am putting the Nashville Predators because their bottom 6 is mostly nothing. Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, Matthew Wood's going to be a really good player, but again, he needs the seasoning to get there. And Eric Howla is definitely a bottom 6 guy. Zachary Leroux has shown that he is interested in being more of a fighter than a producer. So I'm putting Nashville in the 7 spot. Boy, this is deep. I would say, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Winnipeg in the 6th spot. Just seems crazy to me. But hear me out on this. Because of how big of a question mark that second line is, this is one of the teams that if that second line produces at a better level, if Gustav Nyquist does in fact have a pulse, and if Jonathan Taves doesn't show a large level of rust, Winnipeg could vault all the way up into the top 3. But as likely as it is that they do, it is also very likely that they don't. So I'm putting Winnipeg at 6. I'm going to put the Minnesota Wild at 5 and apply the same logic. If Vladimir Tarasenko rebounds, that could vault the Wild up to, 3 or 4, maybe even higher, depending on how people are performing. But until he does, that is a glaring weakness that has led to that second line having inconsistent production at best over the last few years. I am going to put. Here's how I think we're going to do this. I'm going to put, just because they're a little on the younger side, I'm going to put the Utah Mammoth at 4. And these are all very close. Like it's splitting hairs to try to rank these offenses. I'm putting Utah at 4, but if everybody in Utah takes the type of leap that they are capable of, they'll probably be number 1 or number 2 next year when we do this. And I want to make this an annual thing, just taking a look at all the different position groups and trying to establish where the Wild fit amongst the rest of the pack. So I'm putting Utah at 4. I'm going to put the Dallas Star. No. Yes. I'm going to put the Dallas Stars at 3. Tyler Seguin is a massive question mark. If he's healthy and shows that he is over some of the injuries that he's dealt with the last few years, that could vault Dallas back up. I'm putting the Avalanche at number 2. Same story for Gabe Landeskog. It's amazing how many teams have second-line players that could make or break what they are trying to do. Landeskog, if he can return to form, that infinitely deepens this Avs team. But with the fact that Jake Neighbors is currently slated for a third-line role, much like the Dallas Stars, I got to go with the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Kyrou is a perennial 40-goal scorer. Buchnevich, Thomas, Holloway, and Shen have all been 30-goal scorers previously. Jimmy Snuggerud, if he turns into a 30-goal scorer, then that is going to only make them that much harder to play against. And so as far as best offenses go, it's close, but I'm going with the St. Louis Blues as number 1. I'm going with the Colorado Avalanche at number 2. The Dallas Stars at number 3. The Utah Mammoth at 4. And honestly, you could flip Dallas. You could flip Dallas and Utah, but The edge that I went with was the top line of Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen. It gets a little thin down in line 3 and 4, which is the case for most of the teams in the Central. But that top line gives me the tiebreaker between them and Utah. But then, as good as that top line for Dallas is, they are not Nathan MacKinnon. And maybe that's a reason to put Colorado at number 1 as far as the offense goes, but major question mark with Gabe Landeskog. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for rankings. Let us know in the comments how you feel. Where should the Minnesota Wild be ranked amongst the offenses in the Central Division? Do you have them 5th like I did? Do you have them dead last? Do you think the Wild should be contracted and there should be no team in Minnesota? What are your thoughts on today's episode? Let us know in the comments section. I'm, of course, joking there, but, we like to have some fun. Let us know in the comments section, and we will move to the defense next as we move through the rankings. As always, we thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.